Hi everyone, in this video we will cover past paper questions related to chapter 14 metallic elements and alloys. So before starting the chapter we have to memorize some of the basic concepts that are related to this chapter. First of all, we have to know what is metallic bonding. Metallic bonding is a bond that is formed between positive metal ions and in a sea of delocalized electrons. Chemical properties. What are the common chemical properties of metals? First, they always form positive ions by losing electrons. Second, they react with oxygen to form basic oxide. Third, their reactivity increases down the group if you check in the group 1 and group 2 metals. Third is transition metals. They are less reactive compared to group 1 and group 2 metals, but they always form colorful compounds. Third, you have to memorize also about the alloys. What are alloys? Alloys are actually the mixture of metals with other metals or non-metals. Some of the examples of these alloys are brass, steel, stainless steel. They are already given in your book. Some of others are also given in your book. You can check them out. So what is brass made up of? It is actually made up of copper and zinc. Steel is made up of iron and carbon, whereas stainless steel is made up of iron, chromium and nickel. You have to memorize this because sometime in exam they can ask you that which metal is made up of, like the brass is made up of which metal. So you have to memorize this one. Okay. So why we make alloys? Because in nature metals are very soft. So to make them hard and to use them for the daily purpose, we want to make them stronger and harder. So we usually make a mixture of these metals with some other metals or maybe some other non-metals. So after this, these alloys become more stronger and harder than the pure metals. And why they become stronger and harder? Because the alloys contain different sides of the atoms, so it is difficult for those atoms to slide over each other. So therefore, there cannot be any distorted layer. That's why you see that that the gold, we cannot find a pure gold when we are making the jewelry. Why? Because pure gold is very soft. So most of the time, the gold is, they say that it is 22 karat or 20 karat. Why? Because it has some mixture of other metals in it. Okay, I hope you got this point. So now let's start with the question. What is a property of all the metals? So conductivity, electricity, yes. Hard, low melting points, react with water. Yes, some metals can also react with water, but not all. So we have to check the property that is common for all the metals. And so that's why option A is the right option over here. Let's see next question. Which property is shown by all metals? They are extracted from their ores by heating with carbon. It is not right for all the metals. They conduct electricity. Yes, this one is right for all the metals. So option B is correct option. Question 4. Which statement is correct for all metals? Again, we have to look for them. The one which is conducting electricity is the most common, and for all the metals it is right. So they conduct electricity when molten. Yes, that's right. So option A is right. Question 5. Which property is not considered a typical metallic property? First, good conductor of heat. Yes, all metals are good conductor of heat. Low melting point. That is wrong. Metals have usually high melting point. So that's why option B is not right. Question 6. Which physical properties are typical of all the metals? First, good heat conductivity. Yes, that's right. All metals have good heat conductivity. Low density. That's not right. All the metals don't have low density. Malleability. Yes, all the metals are malleable in nature. So 1 and 3 option is right. So that's why B option is correct. Question 7. Which statement about general properties of metals are correct? Conduct electricity when solid. Yes. Form acidic oxide. Wrong. They always form basic oxide. High melting point. Yes, correct. So 1 and 3 option is right. That's why option A is correct. Question 8. Some properties of substance X are listed. It conducts electricity when molten. It has high melting point. It burns in oxygen and the oxide dissolve in water to give a solution with pH 11. So what does it mean? It means it's a metal. Because metals can conduct electricity when molten. Also, ionic compounds can conduct electricity when molten. They have high melting points, right? So these both options can be right for ionic compounds and metal. But if you see the third option, they burn in oxygen and the oxide will dissolve in water to give a solution with pH 11. This is the property for the metal oxide. So that's why option C is the right option. Question 9. Some properties of 4 elements P, Q, R, and S are shown. Solid P reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid to give hydrogen. So usually metals react with the HCl to give hydrogen. Solid Q does not conduct electricity. So usually non-metals do not conduct electricity, right? So P is a metal, Q is a non-metal. Let's see for solid R is used to make saucepan because it is a good conductor of heat. So solid R is a good conductor of heat, means it's also a metal. Solid S react with oxygen to form a compound where atoms of S share electrons with atoms of oxygen. So it means there is a sharing of electrons, and sharing of electrons usually occur in the covalent bond, and covalent bond is formed between two non-metals. It means S is a non-metal and Q is a non-metal. So they are asking about which elements are metal. Okay, so we are just left with P and R. So P and R are the metals. So option A is the right option. Question 10. Some properties of four elements W, X, Y, and Z are listed. First, W melts at 1410 degrees Celsius and form an acidic oxide. X is a high density and is easily drawn into wire. Y acts as a catalyst and its oxide reacts with acid. So Y it means it's a transition element, right? X has a high density and it is easily drawn into wires. It means it is a metal, right? And which metal? Usually copper can be drawn into the wire. Okay. 4Z is a red-brown solid that is used to make alloy. So now we have to check which options are right. So if it is used in making alloys, then it means can be iron. So let's see which options are right. Which of these elements are metal? Okay, so we have to find the one. The first one is making acidic oxide. So this option is not right. So we are just left with 2, 3, and 4 options. These all options are right for the metal. Okay, so that's why option B is the correct option here. Question 11. Which statement about the general properties of metals are correct? First, they are good conductor of heat and electricity. Yes. They have low melting points. Wrong. They react with dilute acid to form a salt and water. Yes, right. They react with oxygen to form basic oxide. Yes, that's also right. Okay. So the first option is right because they can conduct heat and electricity. Second, they have low melting point. That's wrong. And they can react with dilute acid. Yes, that's right. But if they react with dilute acids, not all of them can react with dilute acid. For example, copper. Copper cannot react with dilute acid or any acid. So that's why it cannot produce salt. Okay. So that's why this option is right for metals, but not for all the metals. So we are just left with option 1. And this is the fourth option. That is the fourth one. So 1 and 4, which is option B. So option B is correct. Question 12. The following statements are made about the metal copper, iron, magnesium, and zinc. First, their oxide are acidic. Wrong, because they all are metals, so they form basic oxide. They all conduct electricity in the solid state. Yes, this statement is right. They all have high melting points. Right. They all react with dilute acid to form hydrogen. Wrong, because copper cannot react with dilute acid to form hydrogen. So that's why which options are now we left with 2 and 3. That is option C. So option C is correct. Question 13. Which substance is a metal? Electrical conductivity when solid, it should be high. And when also molten, it should again be high. So option A is the right option here. Question 14. Uses of metals depend on their properties. Which properties is necessary for the use given? Okay. First of all, use of the metal. You have to memorize the metal uses and then which property make it useful. That's you also have to memorize. Okay. So first of all, why they are used in the car bodies? Because they are malleable. You can make any shape, right? But it is ductile. Ductile means they can be made into any wire shape. So car bodies are not wire. Okay. So wrong. B. Cutlery conducts heat. Again wrong. These are not the pots. Cutlery is just for the eating purpose. Third, food container. Yes, C option is right because it resists corrosion. That's why we are using the food container. Why option D is not right? Overhead electric cables, the property of the metal should be low density. We use aluminium because it has low density. That's why we use them in overhead electrical cables. Okay. So that's why now we are just left with option C. That is right. Why we use metals to make food containers? Because they can resist corrosion. So option C is correct. Question 15. Copper is a transition element used to make saucepan. Which property is not correct for copper? First, good conductor of heat. Yes. Insoluble in water. Yes, right. Low melting point. That's wrong. Copper have a high melting point. Okay, so option C is the right option here now. Question 16. The diagram shows an electrical cable. Which statement about the substance used is correct? Remember that usually in electrical cables we use copper, okay? So metal core and we have a plastic coating. The coating is plastic because it conducts electricity well. Wrong. The coating is plastic because it is insulator. The core is copper because it conducts electricity well. Yes, that's right. We use the metal core that is made up of copper because it can conduct electricity well. So option B is right. Question 17. Which statement about copper or aluminium is correct? Aluminium is more dense than the copper. Wrong. Copper is a transition metals and transition metals have more density compared to group 1, group 2 and group 3, all other metals. Okay, so copper is more dense. That's wrong. Aluminium is less reactive than copper. Wrong. The reactivity of transition metals is less compared to that of group 1, group 2 and group 3. So B is also wrong. Copper has high ductility. Yes, that's right. That's why we make the wires from copper. So option C is the right option here. Question 18. Which statement is correct? Aluminium is used in the manufacture of aircraft because it has high density. It's obvious from here that it should have low density because aircrafts have to fly in the air, right? So their density should be low. That's why this option is wrong. This is right that they are used in the manufacture of aircraft, but the reason is wrong. Let's see copper. Copper is used for cooking utensils because it's a good conductor of heat. Yes, that's right. So option B is correct. We don't have to look for the other options. Question 19. The electrical conductivity of magnesium is tested. Magnesium is then added to dilute sulfuric acid. A gas W is produced, which will describe the electrical conductivity of magnesium and identifies W. Okay, remember that whenever metals react with the acid, they always produce a hydrogen gas. Okay, so hydrogen should be the answer. It can be A or C. Now let's see for electrical conductivity because it's a metal, so its electrical conductivity should be good. So option A is the right option here. Question 20. Which statement about the use of metals is not correct? So we have to find the option that is not right for the metal. First, aluminium is used in aircraft because of its strength and good electrical conductivity. Aluminium has a good strength and good electrical conductivity, but this is not the reason to be used in aircraft. In aircraft, it is used because it has a low density. B. Copper is used in electrical wiring because of its good electrical conductivity. Yes, that's right. So the reason should match with the use. Okay, so this reason match with its use, so that's why option B is the right option. Let's see for C option. Stainless steel resists corrosion and is used to make cutlery. Stainless steel resists corrosion. Yes, that's right. Stainless steel can resist the corrosion and that's why we use its cutlery. Okay, so that's also a right option. So transition elements are often used as catalysts. Yes, that's also a right option. So we have to find the one which is not correct. So which one is not correct? Of course, option A. Because it is used in aircraft, that's right, but the reason is not right. So option A will be the right answer for this question. Question 21. Which statement about metals and their use is correct? So we have to find the correct option here. Aluminium is used in manufacture of aircraft because of it has a high density. Wrong. Copper is used to make cooking utensils because it is a poor conductor of heat. Wrong. It should be a good conductor. The reasons are wrong now here. Mild steel is used to make car bodies. Yes, because it's a brittle and breaks easily. Wrong. Because it cannot break easily. Okay. So all these three reasons are actually wrong. The uses are right. Stainless steel is used to make cutlery because it is resistant to corrosion. Yes, that's right. Why we use stainless steel? Because it is resistant to corrosion. Option D is the right option here. Question 22. Which statement about the uses of metal is correct? Aluminium is used in the manufacture of aircraft because of its strength and high density. Again, wrong. Low density should be the answer. Copper is used in electrical wiring because of its strength and high density. Again, wrong. Because for electrical wiring, this is not the reason. The reason is electrical conductivity. Let's see option C. Mild steel is used in the manufacture of car bodies because of its strength. Yes, that's right. And resistant to corrosion. Wrong. It is not. Mild steel is not resistant to corrosion. Remember that stainless steel is resistant to corrosion but not the mild. Stainless steel is used in the construction of chemical plant because of its strength and resistant to corrosion. Yes, that option is right. So option D is correct. Let's see question 23. Which statement about the use of metal is correct? Aluminium is used in the manufacture of aircraft and it has a high density. Wrong. Aluminium is used to make food containers as it conducts electricity. Wrong. The reason is wrong. The options, the uses are right, but the reasons are wrong. Stainless steel for cutlery is made by adding other elements to iron. Yes, that's right, because stainless steel is actually an alloy of iron. So that's why option C is the right option here. Question 24. Which statement about the use of metals are correct? First, iron is used to make aircraft because iron has a low density. Wrong. Iron is not used in making aircraft. It's aluminium. Copper is used to make electrical cables because copper is a good conductor of electricity. Right. Third, aluminium is used to make brass because aluminium is strong and hard. Wrong. Brass is not made up of aluminium. Brass is made up of zinc and copper. Iron is mixed with additives to make an alloy used in chemical plant. Yes, that's right, because iron is used to make stainless steel. Okay, that is used in making the chemical plant. So 4 and the second options are right. So where we can find this one, that is option D. So option D is correct. Question 25. Metal X is a good conductor of electricity and is used for electrical wiring. Metal Y is used to make an alloy which is resistant to corrosion and is used to make cutlery. Metal Z is light and strong and is used in the manufacture of aircraft. What are X, Y, and Z? So for this one, you have to memorize the uses of the metal. Remember that for electrical wiring, you can use any other metal, but the best option should be the copper. Okay, so X should be the copper answer. So B or D can be right. Now, used to make alloy and then it is resistant to corrosion. It is also used to make cutlery. Then it can be stainless steel. Okay, and which metal is used to make stainless steel? Of course, iron. So copper, iron. So this option B is the right option here. Now we are left with aluminium. Of course, aluminium is light, and that's why it is used to make the aircraft. So option B is correct over here. Okay, let's see question 26. Electrical cables are made from either dash, because it is a very good conductor of electricity, or from dash because it has a low density. So we have to find two metals that can be used to make electrical cables, and one should have a low density and the first one should be a very good conductor of electricity. So we have to find the one, aluminium. Of course, it is a good conductor of electricity, but copper doesn't have low density, so we cannot choose this option. Now let's see this one, copper. Yes, copper is a very good conductor. That's why we use it in the cables. And aluminium has a low density, so these two options B or C can be right. Now let's see, overhead cables have a dash core in order to give the cable strength. So now we have to choose one option between magnesium and steel. Remember that steel is an alloy, so it will have more strength compared to magnesium. That's why we will use steel as a core. Okay, so that's why option C can be the right option over here. Question 27. Which will describe the use of aluminium, copper, and mild steel? Okay, aluminium is used in aircraft bodies. Yes, right. Electrical wiring. Yes, we can use it. And then food containers. Yes, we can also use, not in the car bodies. So A, C, D can be right. Now let's see for the copper. Copper is used in electrical wiring. Yes, right. This option is already have been rejected, so we can just look over here. C and D, aircraft bodies. No, we don't use copper in aircraft bodies because it has a very high density, right? So now we are just left with option A. So option A is right. Mild steel, of course, it is used in making the car bodies. So option A is correct. Question 28. Which row shows uses of metal listed? So now we have to find the use of aluminium. Aircraft manufacture, yes, right. Cutlery, no. Electrical wiring, yes, we can use. Food containers, yes, we can use. So A, C, D can be right. Now let's see for copper. Copper is used to make food containers, no. Electrical wiring, yes, that's right. Okay, but cutlery is not right, so this option is wrong. Now aircraft manufacture, no. Cooking utensils, yes, it is used to make cooking utensils. So option D is the only right option over here. And mild steel, of course, it is used in making car bodies. So option D is correct. Question 29, which will describe the use of metal and the property upon the use depends. Okay, so we have to match the use and its property. First of all, aluminium, it is used in making aircraft body. Yes, right? So aluminium is a heat conductor. Wrong. This is not the property. That's why we are using it in aircraft. We are using it in aircraft because it has a low density. So option A has been rejected. Now let's see for option B. Aluminium is used in making cooking utensils. Wrong. Copper is used in making cooking utensils. Yes, that's right. Copper has a high density. Wrong. Okay, this is not the reason to use in cooking utensils. It is used because of it is a good conductor of heat. Okay. So now let's see for copper. Copper is used in electrical wiring and it is a good conductor of electricity. So yes, these options are right. So that's why option D is correct. Question 30, which row gives a use for the named metal and the two properties which both explain its use. Okay, so now we have to see one by one. Metal, aluminium, it is used is aircraft construction. Yes, right. I did wrong. So the first property is already wrong. So we cannot choose this one. Now let's see the copper that is used in electrical wiring. Yes, right. Good electrical conductivity. Yes, that's the reason. And also it's a ductile. Yes, that's why option B is the right option over here. We don't have to look for other options. Let's see question 31. What is the symbol of metal used in the manufacture of aircraft because of its low density? Obviously, it's aluminium. So option A is the right. Question 32. Which property makes aluminium ideal for making food containers? So it should be, these all are the right options, right? But related to food containers, the reason it is resistant to corrosion. So option D is correct. Why is aluminium used to make food containers for storing food? Again, it is resistant to corrosion. That's why we use it. So option C is correct. Aluminium is used to make containers for storing food. Which property make it suitable for this use? Again, same question, but in different style. Okay, so the same answer, resist corrosion. Option C. Question 35. Which property of aluminium make it useful in the manufacture of aircraft? Now, for the aircraft, it should have a low density. So we have to choose the option low density. That is option C. Question 36. Which statement explain why aluminium is used to manufacture aircraft? Again, it has a low density, so option A is correct. Question 37. Which statement explain why aluminium is used in the manufacture of aircraft? Again, same questions, but with different options here. So option B is right here. Now, it has a low density. Question 38. Which statement about aluminium is not correct? First, it is resistant to corrosion. That's right. It is strong and has high density. That's wrong. It has a low density. So option B is not the right option here. Okay, so we will choose B. Okay, let's see question 39. Some properties of aluminium are listed. It conducts heat, it has low density, it is strong, it is resistant to corrosion. Which of these properties make aluminium suitable for making food containers for chilled food product? Okay, so now we have to choose which of these properties suit best with the use of making it as a food container. Okay, it conducts heat? No. Okay, it has low density? No. It is strong? No. It is resistant to corrosion? Yes, that's the right answer. Why not heat? Because we are using for food container, but they are asking for chilled food products. Okay, we don't need the heat for that one. So that's why option 4 is the only left option over here. So option D is the correct answer. Question 40. Which diagram represents an alloy? Remember that alloy is a mixture, okay? So which of them is showing an alloy? We have to look. This one, all of this one is a pure one, right? This one is a mixture, this one is a mixture, and this one also is showing a mixture, but it is distorted, okay? Metals are a lattice structure, okay? So B or A option can be right. So remember that the solid alloy usually has less number of the mixture, the other metals, okay? So B can be the best option compared to that of the A, okay? So A can be actually an ionic compound also, because it has the same number of 2 elements. But here the number of elements are different. So that's why option B is the right option here. Which diagram show the structure of an alloy? Again, if you look over here, it's an ionic compound. This one is a graphite structure. This one or this one can be right. But if you see, it's a mixture. So mixture should have 2 different type of elements, or 3 maybe, right? So C is the right option here. Question 42. Which diagram show the structure of an alloy? So again, D is the right option here. We can find the alloy because it's a mixture here. So option D is correct. Question 43. Which diagram best represents the structure of a substance that is a good conductor of electricity at 25 degrees Celsius? Okay, now we have to see each option one by one. Okay, so let's see the first option. This is the structure of coal. This is a covalent bond, if you see here. So B option again, not right. C is an ionic compound. Ionic compounds are good conductor of electricity only when they are in the melted form, right? And 25 degrees Celsius, the ionic compounds are usually, because they have very high melting and boiling points, so they will be solid. So now we are just left with option D, because this is the structure of an alloy, and alloys are also the good conductor of electricity. So option D is right here. Question 44. Which diagram represents the arrangement of atoms in an alloy? Again, if you look all the structure, this is the only one which is showing as a mixture, right? So option D is correct. Question 45. Cupronickel is used to make coins. The arrangement of atoms in cupronickel is shown. So it is made up of copper atoms and nickel atoms, okay? Which kind of substance is cupronickel? So it's an alloy. So option A is right. Question 46. The diagram shows the structure of 2 substances used to make electrical conductors. Which statement correctly describes X and Y? So this is actually a metal and this is an alloy. So let's see, X is a pure metal and Y is a compound. Wrong. It's not a compound. It's just a mixture of the metals or the non-metals. So we can call it an alloy, okay? X is a pure metal and Y is an alloy. Yes, that's right. So option B is the right option here. Question 47. The diagram represents the structure of a solid. Which solid does the diagram represent? It represents an alloy, right? It does not represent an ionic compound, because ionic compounds have positive and negative structure. The graphite structure is also not like this. Remember, it is only made up of carbon, so it should have only one type of atoms, right? So again, that one is also wrong. And we are just now left with brass. Yes, that option is right, because this is the structure of an alloy and brass is also an alloy. So option B is the right option here. Okay, let's see question 48. Which statement about alloys is correct? First, alloys are pure metal elements. Wrong. They are the mixture. At least 2 or more metals react together to make alloys. So sometimes the students think, okay, this is the right option because they say 2 or more metals. But if you see the word react, that is wrong because they don't react, okay? It's a mixture. So this word can make it wrong. So option B is also not right. See, alloy can be harder and stronger than a pure metal. Yes, this option is the right option here. So option C is correct. Question 49. Which row compares the strength of alloys with pure metals and explain the difference in the strength? So now let's see one by one. Strength of an alloy compared to a pure metal. The strength is higher, right? So it should be stronger. So C or D option can be right. Now, what is the explanation? Large atoms slide more easily over smaller atoms. That's wrong. It is more difficult for them to slide over each other because we have a mixture of atoms, right? So that's why larger atoms make it harder for layers to slide over one another. This is the basic explanation. So option D is the right option here. Question 50. Different types of steel alloys are manufactured by changing the percentage of carbon in the alloy. The properties of 4 steel alloys are shown over here, okay? What are the properties of the steel alloy containing 0.23% of carbon? Okay, so if you see here, from 0.0 to 0.2, The strength of alloy is high and the hardness of the alloy is low. They are asking about 0.23. So it means the second option is the right option here. We have to choose between 1 to 0.3, right? So high and medium. So the strength of alloy will be high and the hardness of the alloy will be medium. So that's why option C is the right option here. Question 51. Steel is an alloy of iron. Which statement explain why steel is stronger than iron? Okay. Steel contains carbon, which is very hard substance. Wrong. The carbon atoms in steel bond together. Bonding is not the right answer. Okay. The carbon atoms in steel make the iron atoms bond together very strongly. Again, wrong. There is no bonding. The carbon atoms prevent the layers of iron atoms from sliding over each other. Yes, this is the right answer. Okay, so that's why option D is correct. Remember that why alloys are strong, because it is very hard for the atoms to slide over each other. Okay, so that's why option D is the right option here. Question 52. Which statement about the use of aluminium, mild steel and stainless steel is correct? Aluminium is used for making food container as it has a high density. This is not the right option because to make the food container, it should be resistant to corrosion. Second, mild steel is used for car bodies as it is resistant to corrosion. Wrong. Because of its strength it is used, mild steel is actually not resistant to corrosion. Okay. C. Stainless steel is used for aircraft bodies. Wrong. Stainless steel is used for cutlery as it is resistant to corrosion. Yes, that option is right. So option D is correct. Okay, let's see question 53. Different forms of steel contain different portions of carbon. Steel P contains a high portion of carbon. Steel Q contains a low portion of carbon. Which statement is correct? Okay, so now the P has more portion of carbon, so it means it will be more stronger. Okay, carbon will make it more stronger. And the steel Q has less, so it will be less stronger. So now let's see one by one each option. P is stronger. Yes, right. P is stronger. P is less strong. So C and D options are wrong. Now we are just left with option A and B. P is more stronger and more brittle than Q. Yes, that's right, because the portion of the carbon is more, so that's why it will be more brittle compared to that of the Q. So that's why option A is the right option here. Question 54. Stainless steel is an alloy of iron and other metals. It is strong and does not rust, but it costs much more than the normal steel. What is not made from stainless steel? Okay, remember that stainless steel is expensive, so we have to find the thing that we cannot make it. Okay, so cutlery is already given in your book. We use it because it can resist to corrosion, right? Pipes in chemical factory, of course, yes. Railway lines, yes, this is the option that we cannot choose stainless steel to make. Okay, and you also have seen the railway line. They're not made up of stainless steel, so option C is not the right option. Question 55. Stainless steel is an alloy of iron, carbon and other metals. Which row is correct? Stainless steel is harder than pure iron. Yes. So A or B options can be right. Stainless steel resists corrosion better than iron. Yes, that's also right. So option A is correct. Question 56. Which row describes the use of an alloy and the property upon which the use depends? So now let's see one by one. Alloy is mild steel. It is used in making cutlery. Wrong. Mild steel is used in making machinery. Stainless steel is used in making cutlery. Okay. And then stainless steel is used in making machinery. Good conductor of electricity. That is not the reason to make the good conductor of electricity. Okay. So mild steel is the right option here because of its strength we use in making different type of machinery. So option B is the right option here. Question 57. Which description of brass is correct? It's a compound? No, it's a mixture actually. So it's a mixture of what? Copper and zinc. So option C is correct here. Question 58. Metal M is mixed with copper to produce brass. What is M? So copper and zinc is together mixed to make the brass. So we have to find the word zinc. So that's why option D is correct. Question 59. Brass is an alloy that is formed from copper and zinc. Which statements are correct? Okay, brass, copper and zinc all conduct electricity, right? Brass is a compound. Wrong. Brass is harder than zinc. Yes. So 1 and 3 options are right. That is C. So 1 and 3 only. Question 60. The alloy brass is a mixture of copper and another metal. Brass is used to make the pins of electric tags. Copper is used to make electrical wiring. Which row about the brass is correct? So hardness, yes, its hardness should be more than the copper, right? So A or B options are right now. Electrical conductivity better than copper? No, it cannot be better than copper. Why not? Because copper is a pure metal, so its conductivity will be better than the alloy. So that's why option B is the right one. Why? Because it's worse than the copper. And then another metal is zinc, of course, not the thin one. So that's why option B is the correct option here. Question 61. Solder is an alloy of lead and tin. It is used for joining the pieces of metal. Which statement about solder is correct? First, it can be represented by a chemical formula. Wrong. because it's a mixture, right? We cannot represent it with a chemical formula. It contains a mixture of lead and tin. Yes, this option is right because solder is an alloy of lead and tin. Okay, so that's why see, if you see lead and tin chemical combined, wrong. It has a higher melting point than lead or tin. That's also wrong. Okay, usually the alloys have more melting and boiling points, but for solder, it has a lower melting and boiling point compared to lead. So option B is the right option here. So these were all questions related to chapter 14. I will see you in the next video. Up till then, bye-bye.